Hey, welcome to Monday night's board game news and best of 2015 board games.
Yes.
I am your host, Anthony.
And I'm Francis.
And today we're joined by our lovely panel of guests, starting from, on my screen, left to right, Allie from the Family Meeple.
Hi, everyone. You want me to introduce my channel again?
Sure, why not?
Always be plugging.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Allie from the Family Meeple. You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter for board game content, primarily focused on family and solo gaming.
All right, next we have Branden.
Hey, I'm Branden with All Aboard Gamer, and Lexi and I run a channel, All Aboard Gamer, and we're on all the socials and primarily YouTube. But yeah, we cover all kinds of board game stuff, previews, reviews, Kickstarter, occasionally, and these panels.
All right, and next we have Carlos.
Hey, folks, I'm Carlos from the Beans and Dice podcast, where we do a call-in show Thursday nights on our YouTube channel, Twitch, and on Facebook, where we take your phone calls to get yelled at about why we're wrong about what we love in gaming and what you're up to. So check us out Thursday nights.
Nice. And finally, Mr. Gary.
Hello, everybody. I'm Gary. I'm also known as Fetigator. I don't have a channel. I just go on other people's channels and talk about board games.
That's the way to do it, Gary.
And I'm happy to be here. It's St. Patrick's week, I think. So I'm wearing my green.
Stand up,
ready
show
to
the
go.
shirt. Stand up, show
Got
the
my
shirt. There you go.
leprechauns.
Roll
You
out.
like that?
We're
Roll
gonna
out.
have to dedicate an episode just to explain the source behind the name Fetigator. I think it's
Yeah, we could do that. If you're familiar with the X-Wing game, that's your clue.
Copy
All
that.
right.
yeah. So if you know the
I
answer
knew
to that,
that.
folks, leave it in the comments below. I don't know that, so. All right, I'm gonna unmute you, Allie. Let's see if a little bit of heat sound still, but I think we're okay. Well, actually, we'll mute you. We'll do it in the first way. So.
Yes.
What we're going to do this week is a little bit different. We call it board game news because we're going to cover a topic. I think we should probably, I'd like to kind of get in the swing of this,
Yeah,
right? I think it's a
absolutely.
pretty cool idea. Maybe one of us could bring a topic ahead of time and then sort of present it to the group, and then we all just kind of opine on it. But Francis and I had been talking, and we did some research recently on some interesting information with regards to the board game industry itself.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of talking. We've had some personal things going on that are causing us to look at our collection, and we're sort of parsing down. We're sort of thinking about games we're buying and where we're spending our money, and overall what's happening in the industry. And we talk about this stuff a lot. So
Industry and in the economy.
yeah, exactly. So kind of where our little board game industry meets the bigger economy and everything we're seeing. And just the other day, I mean, this week we saw kind of the collapse of two banks.
Two banks,
right?
yeah.
For reasons. And then, we what's that? Who's laughing now?
For reasons. Yeah, there's
Well,
a
I'm
couple
not
of
gonna-
different takes on
I'm
those
not going
reasons,
to
but we'll go.
digress
Yeah.
into that, but we'll just leave it right there. But we're thinking about the board game economy and the industry and where we're going, because we've been around for a while. We've been seeing different kinds of games come and other kinds of games coming on the scene recently.
Right. And I think the marketing trends, the sales trends, all that good
Yeah.
stuff it's been sort of a roller coaster, right?
It has been, yeah.
We've seen sort of like the rise of the hobby since we've been in it back in 2014, was it?
Yeah, well, you started, I think, 2014. I
Yeah.
came on a little bit later.
Where
But
it was a completely different landscape
Totally.
Than where it is today in pretty much all aspects, I think.
yeah, and I think especially since we saw definitely a shift, and this is not, unknown knowledge, I think, to anybody. We saw an increase in board gaming over the pandemic because everybody was locked down at home,
Mhm.
right? So we had a lot of new gamers come on the scene, a lot of new collections, fresh collections to populate with games, which translated, at least, from an economic perspective to, hey, lots of people are want to play games, want to buy games. Let's make more games so people
Yeah.
can buy them and expand their collections. And now we're starting to see, or at least it feels like we're coming down from that, where we're starting to see companies going under.
Right.
We're seeing some changes with regards to who owns which companies and all of that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think if you've been paying attention to just the general social media news
Mhm.
about board gaming
Yeah.
and the community itself, you've seen a number of companies, publishers, distributors, etc., going under, basically just shuttering the doors. We can't
Mhm.
afford the business anymore. We're going to just basically deliver the last bit that we have and then we're done, right?
Yeah, and you
So-
can see in Kickstarter too.
Yeah,
So you can see,
Kickstarters,
like,
companies
Kickstarters
not-
fail and the company just goes away.
Yeah, they just
Okay.
disappear. So, and if that happens once or twice, that's something.
Yeah.
But it's been a recurring theme over the last, I'd say, for the past year.
Mhm.
You've seen a number of these things, and I think it's sort of like
Yeah.
the stakes seem like they're getting a little bit bigger, right? Because you're talking about full logistics companies going under. That's a pretty big deal if you really think about it.
Yes.
Versus like one new Kickstarter company that kind of fails on
Exactly,
managing
yeah.
their Kickstarter fulfillments. Like that's okay, you get that. That's just a bad business decision or bad
Mm-hmm.
business management. But when it's a big logistic company that's been around for a while,
Like fun again.
yeah, it gets a little bit like, okay, like is that mismanagement? Is that economy driven?
Mhm.
So when we talk about what we've seen trend wise and what we feel is what you would say is maybe a retraction in the market of board gaming, right? Maybe the bubble. Like, are we at the top of the bubble? Is that bubble actually bursting? We could both sit there and just say, you know what, it does feel like it's bursting. It feels like it's slowing down, but you don't know if that's your interest waning,
Right.
your finances changing because of inflation,
Right.
or is it something else? So what we did was we went and we grabbed some data. So we're going to start sharing with you guys a little bit of the data that we pulled.
Yeah, because luckily
Um,
we're in the first quarter of the new year, which means
Yeah.
a lot of folks have started to publish or have published their Q4 results, the financial earnings statements and things
Yeah,
like that. So
and
we
we
started
don't-
looking at that.
We don't like to just make assumptions. We like to have.
We like to validate our feelings.
Yeah, we do. You can't just just make statements and assume that everything's
Yeah.
the way we feel it is. It's
I
actually.
think we can. Like you
Well-
know, we can do that.
You
You do a lot of things,
We
Carl.
can do. We can make a lot of assumptions.
I'm
but
allowed to be wrong.
You can be, but I think what we want to do is present this data to you guys and let's get your thoughts on it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
So I think the first one that we looked at was the first
Yeah.
company we looked at was
Just so
Asmodee.
you know who this
yeah,
is,
so just
yeah.
to give you some background. So for
It's
those of you
actually
who don't,
Embracer.
well,
Group.
yes. So for those of you who don't know, Asmodee was purchased by this group called Embracer Group. I think out of Sweden, right?
Mhm.
In March of last year, in 2022. So even Asmodee, who owns all these other companies, has been bought by a parent company who owns other types of gaming products. So they have like a mobile games division. They have video games.
Video
So
games. I
they're
think they
protected
have
by
like
a
THQ,
diversification
if you're
of
familiar
different
with video
sorts of segments, I guess you could say.
Yeah, different segments.
So they've got tabletop gaming under here. So we started there just to kind of see what was going on with them. Did you want to go over?
Yeah. Now
some
they
of
made
that's their-
4.146 quadrillion SEK. That's Swedish krona, if you will.
Is it like $10?
Really?
Yes, it's about $15 US. Now, it's like I think it's in the hundreds of millions of dollar range.
Yeah, we
if I did the math, I'm not even sure. Maybe it's a billion. It's like a couple billion. I don't know. I don't even honestly. The conversion's weird because they don't just give you a number. They say it's 4,146 million SEK, and I hate doing those conversions. So
what's important?
It's
a lot of money.
it's 10 chronos, so 10 chronos to $1. So I guess it's
Yes.
about $400 million.
That sounds about
it's
right.
about right. Yeah, I think
Right
that's
on
what
there.
we
Nope,
estimate. It's like
not too
390.
bad.
It's like
Not too
390,
bad.
right? So if you read it, the net sales tabletop game segment amounted to that much, which is an increase of 20% versus Q2. Now, this company's quarters are actually, I guess they're not calendar
Like off by
quarters.
one, yeah.
So their Q3, which they're comparing here, is actually our calendar fourth quarter. So
Right.
it's the last full quarter. So they're saying, compared to the corresponding quarter last year, they were actually up, right, in Q2. So net sales decreased by 5%. So that was kind of like the big takeaway here.
Mhm.
Sales are down 5%.
Yeah.
Is that an indicator of a retraction of the hobby? Probably not, but it's also not a good sign coming from, I would say, a flagship publisher like Asmodee, right?
Yeah.
So you said they're like Q2 is like, or their Q3 is like our
Three.
Q4.
Yeah.
Correct,
That Q4 is like October through December.
So this would be like the summer.
No, this
is their
they're
October,
comparing.
December.
They're saying there's an increase of 20% versus Q2, and their Q2 is
right,
our
yeah.
is calendar quarter Q3.
Yeah.
So this
Okay.
is a financial report of their Q4, which is our calendar Q4.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is Christmas, basically.
Okay, so this is post Gen Con Origin or
Yes.
Essen.
Yeah, this is
Yep.
So this is big
October to
sales.
December.
Oh yeah, this
Interesting.
is end of 2022
Right.
right here,
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
which you would think should be up pretty
Yep.
big.
Yeah.
But
But
the
it's
What do
not.
you
piece,
think?
so we will kind of
Yeah.
want you guys to hang on to this number though, because we're going to be seeing this minus 5%, vary anywhere from like 5 to 7% over the other companies that we talk about. But also, if you want to highlight down here what they're going to be focusing on, right?
Mm.
So
this is where they're looking to do, right here.
yeah. So they kind of explain what's been going on. So profit contribution is impacted by lower gross margin, obviously, like not surprising. But they're looking for a product mix more geared towards trading card games.
And lower gross margin is most likely due to increased costs of materials and logistics, right?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Cool. So anyway, think about that.
So
Put a
think
pin in it.
about that. I will stop
Head over
sharing this one. I will open up the next
Do we know
one.
what
Head
their
over to-
biggest
yeah.
trading card game is?
I don't know, actually.
Seems like FFG and
Probably
Magic
fancy.
and
Yeah, no, they're not
Maybe the
about Magic is Hasbro.
right. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the bigger ones.
Who's doing Lorcana? That's not Hasbro, is it?
Lorcana.
Disney.
Could be.
Oh,
That's
that's
the Disney
Arcana.
one?
That's
That's
Disney
the one,
Arcana.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know who's doing that one. All right,
Somebody was
so
talking
we're gonna
about
go
that,
to we're gonna actually jump into Hasbro
Yeah, let's
next.
jump into Hasbro.
So here's Hasbro, right?
Yeah.
So this is most of these are their fourth quarter reports, and we had to choose these companies because they're public.
Yeah.
No one else has to give.
But they're good benchmarks because they're the biggest, they are public, and we can only assume that like the private companies are probably struggling with the
Not
same
run
types of
as
things.
well as the larger companies. You make that assumption,
Well,
but
you
it
would
may not
hope,
always be
but-
true. But here you go. So fourth quarter revenues, right? This is Hasbro, 1.68 billion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Down 17% year over year. So the fourth quarter is down 17%.
Yeah, look at that operating loss.
$125 million operating loss.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Right. Probably because of the cost of everything, right?
Yep, and down to 7.5 operating profit margin.
Yep. So it's all about the operations, all about the logistics. I'm gonna guess.
Yeah.
And I bet, and when you read through the article, it's pretty
Oh, yeah.
clear that like some of their cash cows are Dungeons and Dragons,
Mhm.
right? Then it's also Magic, right?
So
Magic was in here, right here.
They actually have a chart. If you scroll down here, there's a whole chart just dedicated to Magic.
Yeah, here
So
you go.
if you notice, Magic is actually up 40%,
40%.
I think, year over year, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Look at that.
So where everything else is down, this is not only bringing that overall down number up, but this is where they're finding
So
the majority of
You
their
can imagine if you
earnings,
took Magic the Gathering out of these finances,
which they may.
what their real profit
Yeah.
margin would be just on their board gaming.
Right. Scroll down to the next table there, right
I
here.
see. I guess they also do Yu-Gi-Oh and
that-
Keyforge.
oh, yeah.
So
Oh yeah, right. So all of those, again, those collectibles.
yeah.
Yeah, they're not doing well across the board, right? And
Well,
I think the only-
Hasbro doesn't do those. Keyforge is
that's
No
Fantasy
longer,
Flight.
though.
Yeah,
that's
It's no
Asmodee.
longer
That's not-
Fantasy Flight. Peterson
They
took
sold
it back.
wow.
They FFG somehow lost the algorithm that created. I don't know. Just riddle me
They
that.
just lost it.
They lost the algorithm.
Where'd
They
it
couldn't
go?
find the files on after COVID on how to create the algorithmic generated cards.
Wow.
And then
Really?
Peterson, the former president CEO of FFG, got it back, reacquired the license for Keyforge. So it might be under Embracer. I don't know if he's
No, it's Ghost Galaxy in June
Ghost Galaxy?
2022. Yeah.
Hmm,
Yeah, I knew
but
Keyforge
who
was
owns
not
them?
Hasbro. That's definitely not Hasbro. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
I don't
so
think
Has-
Yu-Gi-Oh is either, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. Magic's their big one.
Yep, I think this next one is also quite interesting. We just have a few more.
I'm gonna go to I think we have two more, yeah.
Yep, we're gonna go to Funko next.
Yeah. You guys heard about what's happening with Funko,
You know
right?
Funko.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
All right, so
The landfill.
yeah, so
Next
Funko.
ET
Literally,
landfill.
Yeah, this one was really interesting.
All right, so here's the Funkos for fourth quarter financial summary, right?
Yeah.
So
Start at the top, that bullet, man.
which one right here? Yeah, net sales decreased 1%, right? So it's net sales. Oh, net sales are down 1% to 330.
But here's what that 1% translates to.
right?
That net income decrease. So we're talking about income decrease. So yeah. Sales are down 1%.
Sales are down.
But that margin is down 300
So their
and
net
what,
income
68%?
decreased 368% to a $46 million loss.
368%
Right?
That's crazy. What else was interesting about this too is, again, no surprise because they had all that
say
upturn in their
368
CEOs.
with an M lost
368%
loss.
Lost.
percent.
Yeah, their net income
$46
went down
million.
368% to the tune of $46 million loss.
But what's interesting is if you look at their is this compared to the full fiscal, or this is compared to the fourth
Just the
quarter
fourth quarter
of
quarter over
2021.
quarter. Yeah.
Yeah, their year-over-year loss, I guess, sales increased 29%, net income decreased.
Yeah. So year over year,
right?
they're down 108%.
But if you're
on
just
net
looking
income.
at that fourth quarter compared to fourth quarter last
Prior year, yeah.
because that's Christmas time,
Yeah.
that's holidays or whatever you're buying for.
This is
buying
why
season.
they're dumping inventory into a landfill.
Yeah, and they've I believe they're bringing back their CEO, and they got rid of their CFO, and they're creating a COO position.
Yep.
To try and recover from that. I think they're bringing in the guy from Walmart.
Yeah, I think a lot of these companies, might have made some bad calls on executive leadership, and are making those corrective actions to get the right people in the right seats.
Also a path we won't go down today.
Yeah, not going down that path, but it's about responsible hiring, responsible leadership, getting the right people to lead your company. And when you don't have that, they don't have the right vision.
Yeah,
this is what happens, right? Like, you've got to be able to weather these events. So that was. So you're seeing a trend here, right? Like, this isn't just us, feeling things out. This is definitely something. And finally, we're going to have Ravensburger, right? So these are all brands that you should all be well familiar with.
Oh, Ravensburger is the Lorcana. That's right.
Lorcana.
Yeah.
Arcana, right?
Disney Lorcana.
I think it's Lorcana.
Yeah.
Lorcana
is the new one, right?
It's their trading card game.
Trading card game. So this is also showing that there is a so let's say group declined in 2022 by 6%.
Mm-hmm.
So they're down
Same.
6%. So everybody's down. So it's probably the higher cost of goods.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe sales are flat.
Yeah. But again, it says in the current business year, the company is pinning great hopes on its entry into the collectible trading card business.
All of these companies are shifting towards collectible cards. This is basically that's the secret sauce here, folks, of how these companies are going to stay in business. So if you've got a board game company that's just doing board games, probably going to have a rough road.
Yeah. Now I have my initial thoughts about this, because this is part of what we've kind of talked about to even dive into this. I'm sorry.
One last thing. You've got Gamma.
Oh yeah, bring
Everyone's
that up.
favorite Gamma. They even posted an article.
Yeah, this was in the summer.
Is the trading card game boom hope or hype?
Yeah.
Based on what we're seeing across the board, it sounds like it's hope, because
I think so too,
these companies are leaning into this because that's where the money's at.
Yeah. Well, and I think the money, we're kind of talking about what drives people to buy stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we saw a lot of folks collecting games, and we have talked about this on the show, and I think in the past.
Yeah, well, before we give our,
I don't know what you mean.
Nobody knows.
So I think we've presented enough. It's let's go around, and we're going to go to each of you.
Sounds okay. Then we'll wrap.
And let's hear your thoughts. We'll start with Allie. What are your thoughts here?
My initial thoughts are that I'm not going to be buying any collectible card games. So they're not going to save themselves on me. Although my kids are attracted to them. Like, we went to a game cafe 2 weekends ago, and she had to have a Pokemon card. She spent $4 on a single Pokemon card from her hard-earned, saved money.
That's Maddie.
And I was like, you don't even have Pokemon cards. You don't even play them. But she had to have this one $4 Pokemon card because all the kids at school, and mind you, she's in first grade. Okay, first grade. All the kids at school have Pokemon cards, and they're all trading them at school.
Wow.
So I don't know. I mean, it's not something that I'm inclined to spend my money on, but there's definitely a draw there, particularly with younger people.
You will be inclined to spend your money on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she might be spending her money. So next time she saves up $20, she might be getting a whole pack of Pokemon cards. I don't know.
Oh.
But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people are just down in general on their net profits because of what's going on with all of the manufacturing costs going up, the shipping costs going up. So even if they have a game that they would have normally made a profit on, maybe they're not now. So how do you draw that line as a publisher and plan ahead for those things? And if these big publishers don't seem to be able to do it, then how do we expect the small publishers to be able to do it and carry on? I'd be interested to see what Stonemeyer's data is, because I think he posts all of
Yeah.
his, even though he doesn't
Oh,
have
does he?
to.
Oh, okay.
I think he
Yeah.
does.
I looked, I don't know if maybe I didn't dig hard enough. I searched for a lot of the bigger companies and I didn't come up with much. But I'll have to take a look and see if we can follow this up with anything from them.
Yep. What do you think, Branden?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much the same as Allie. I mean, not being an economic expert, but certainly feeling the pressure, not only as a pastor, but, you know, I have my finger on the pulse. Typically when the economy starts going bad, church giving is reduced. It's just a trend that just is. So we've been feeling that now for a little bit. But what's interesting about the Funko thing is that I was reading a little bit as you were showing us those numbers, and in the year 2021, they posted $1 billion revenue. So their revenue was up 58% in 1 year since the pandemic. And I think what happened was maybe these folks didn't plan to come out of the pandemic. It's ironic to me. It seems like we blame all this on the pandemic. It's coming out of the pandemic that has been more costly and more harmful to the economy than during the pandemic itself. Because now they're posting these big, huge $30 million of their toys are being put in a landfill. Now, I don't know what that does to the environmentalists, but that's not cool. Like, that's not okay. These are plastic toys and they're dumping 30 million of them into a landfill. Or $30 million worth. I forget. It's a lot of toys. Hundreds of thousands of them just being put in the landfill. And it's like, wait a second. Can you just not like give them away or something? Like, what if you're just going to throw them in a landfill? Why don't you just give them away?
Yeah.
So I don't understand that decision. That to me that to me just seems like a very bad decision. You know, call me I'm not an environmentalist in that sense, but I am in the sense where it's like that doesn't seem like good responsibility for a company that wouldn't have come across to me that promotes something like that. I would think that they would have found another solution. So, but yeah, like to see $1 billion year and now this just 2 years, not even 2 years later, or not even a year later, that's very shocking indeed. And I think what we're seeing, banks closing, food shortages, which a lot of people aren't talking about, but I think that globally we're seeing food shortage problems. We're seeing a lot of things affected. Again, I'm not an economist. I'm not an expert. I'm just observant. And to think that a luxury hobby like this, I mean, imagine if all the board games that are being produced would have to go into a landfill. It would take up vastly more space in a landfill than any Funko Pop. So it just, I honestly don't think our industry could survive. We don't have $1 billion companies, even the Embracer Group. Like not with board gaming, like you don't have $1 billion companies to weather that kind of storm. I don't like the fact that the Embracer Group actually owns Asmodee. I don't like that. But at the same time, they might have the backing to be able to cause survival.
They can weather.
It's kind of a double-edged sword.
Diverse.
You know? They're diverse in their product mix. Yeah.
And look, I think it's just more and more proof that I think there's so much reliant on Magic the Gathering that if something would go sideways, boy, I tell you, I think we'd see a lot of brick and mortar stores close. I think it would affect board gaming in a way that we're not prepared to talk about. Look, there's too many things, too many eggs are in the Magic the Gathering basket. And it's very sad because here's the other problem with Hasbro. I don't know if these numbers are reflected in it, but they tried to pull a fast one with the OGL in Dungeons and Dragons. They tried to rewrite the open gaming license. I don't know if you guys were watching this. I used to play RPGs, so I was kind of tuned into this, watching it very carefully. They tried to pull a fast one because they wanted to take all the content that they've created for their game, D&D. They wanted to license it and then just rewrite it and tried to sneak it past. And it was really dirty. Maybe it was really nasty. And they took a huge hit. Hasbro took a massive hit because of that. And I don't think they have felt the full repercussion of that. People are even calling for the boycott of the film. Now, I don't know if that's going to work. Boycotts typically don't work.
Probably work as well as they boycotted Hogwarts Legacy.
That's very true. That's true. Yeah, that's true. We have some footage around there of that game. Don't we, laying around? I have some footage laying around, but not for this one. But anyway, no, it's just, it's very interesting to see these companies that are diversifying, like Hasbro has board games. They're not typically all that great.
Yeah.
But they're making bad decisions in other sectors, and that doesn't give me confidence for board gaming, even with these big billion-dollar companies. You know, I think Magic the Gathering is the tip of a blade that we're precariously balancing on, and if it goes one way or the other, it could cause a massive problem in our hobby.
Yeah, I think if you probably talk to most brick and mortar board game stores, they'll tell you that they float because of the Magic tournaments.
Yeah.
And all the
I know
boosters they sell.
all of them.
I know ours
They
does.
say if it weren't for Magic, we wouldn't have a store.
Yep, that's what pays the bills. So it's crazy.
You know, the icing on the cake, real quick on that Hasbro is they just canceled that huge Heroescape campaign. That was a disaster.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's canceled, and who knows if that's ever coming back.
Can you
so,
elaborate on that, Gary, in case people that are watching don't know what's going on with that?
I mean, Heroescape is just kind of one of those OG games that, you know, I don't know exactly when it first came out, but it's been a long time. But, you know, it had miniatures and
it had the 3D terrain, right? That you
3D terrain, and it was like modular,
space.
and you can have huge games and stuff. And so Hasbro gets the rights, and they're gonna like, hey, we're gonna re-release this all new and everything, and it was priced way out of. I mean, it was just outrageous, the pricing, because when you started looking at even the quality of the game, this is garbage. Nobody wants this. And so they set up their own like campaign type thing that they have on their
Hasbro
website.
Pulse.
Yeah, what's it called?
Hasbro Pulse.
Yeah, Hasbro Pulse. That's right. And nobody backed it, and they ended up just canceling. And who knows when that's ever going to come back?
Yeah,
But that's to me, that's not a sign of bad decision making. I think that's actually good decision making. You got to know when to say something's ugly and ain't working, and just cut your losses. I think good leaders know when to say no.
Yeah,
good try, but that was dumb.
That's a good point.
People have been waiting.
Otherwise, they're going to have to dump it all in the trash next to the Funko Pop, next to the ET video game.
Nice
game. Yeah,
the ET video game.
I still got mine somewhere around.
So do I. So do I.
Well, since you're on the big screen, Carlos, what are your thoughts on this whole thing?
All right, so the TCG thread that ran through all that was quite interesting to see that, because I'm unlike Branden, I'm more hopeful when it comes to Magic the Gathering. I mean, it's like The Simpsons; they're just not going away. Like Magic the Gathering has been around since I was a kid. They are the big dog in the yard, and others have tried. Now, Pokemon and maybe Yu-Gi-Oh are the only two that have really survived through that, and I think thrived. But outside of that, I can't think of any other TCG, traditional TCG. I don't mean LCG, living card game, or other type of game. I mean traditional trading card game, booster packs and all, that has survived like Magic the Gathering. To think about it, I think Allie brought up Stonemaier, and it made me think about their Rolling Realms system that they got going. Because their Rolling Realms is almost like their little TCG feel, right? Every time a new game comes out for Stonemaier, they got a Rolling Realms pack that comes out with it, right? And then get your Rolling Realm cards that match this new game. And we've also maybe added some other IPs from other companies, like Mad Castles of Mac and Ludwig has some cards for that Rolling Realms game, and it comes in the little blister pack, just like your Magic the Gathering or Pokemon cards, so you can crack it open, and I love it. I love the smell of fresh ink when I unpack a stack of cards out of foil. So I think Stonemaier sees that TCG feeling, but maybe isn't going full TCG, and he's capitalizing on that. Because everybody I know, when they order from Stonemaier online, they grab a pack of Rolling Realm cards. So that, to me, that's where I think Stonemaier is trying to capitalize on that. King of Average had a video this last week that talked about crowdfunding games and how they're fundamentally broken. It was interesting conversation to hear, which is in line with what you're seeing now. Is unless you're funded by a conglomerate of cash, you're out, right? It's like you're posting up crowdfunding. He talks about it, posting up crowdfunders as if the product is ready to go, in order to entice you to support that product, but they're just using that money to finish the last one. and they haven't even started designing the next one. They just craftily created a product card to put out there on Kickstarter to get you to buy. Those companies are folding fast. Look at Fun Again Games. I mean, it's just we are in a weird spot right now, and I think it has to do with tightening of belts. You know, it has to do with $5 cartons of eggs, right? These are the reasons that I have to make decisions on what games to buy, and those smaller companies are going to get eaten up.
Oh yeah, I think shipping has gotten kind of crazy. I mean, that whole big thing came up not too long ago about the expansion pack from Druid City. That was $18 shipping. For like an $8 expansion pack, something like that.
They did end up subsidizing it. You could ask for a $7 refund, so it made it $11. But still, $11, for a 15 card.
The fact that you would even
still,
put out the price that they were asking for, and I don't think they hadn't told the backers that it was going to be that change. Nope. All of a sudden, they realized they saw the price change on shipping to $18 from what it was.
Yep. And
we're like, what just happened here for something that doesn't even cost $18? I'm going to pay. Yeah. Imagine paying more in shipping than you do for a product.
You got to love the IP or the designer. Mm-hmm. There's something about it that's got to get your heart to be able to do that.
Yeah. Or otherwise, it's like, can I just get this? I like my local game store when it comes out.
Right.
So, all right. So, Gary, why don't you finish this off? What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, that was kind of interesting about, seeing Asmodee wanting to just go to these collectible card games. And I mean, I've dabbled in a couple of them and I just don't really care about them. I mean, if we're getting are we getting to the point where the biggest players in the game in terms of publishers and, like these Asmodees or these bigger companies, they're going to start depending on TCGs? I mean, then how much longer is going to be to where like board games? I mean, I know we're past the days of where 5,000 board games a year were coming out. So, now we may be getting down to like maybe just 1,000 or 2,000 or so, because I just don't care about Magic. I don't care about Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh or these games. And eventually, I mean, they're just going to have their devoted fan base, and it's like, and then that's it. Like who's, I mean, are the newer, the new generation like into Pokemon as they were 20 years ago or Yu-Gi-Oh? I mean, these aren't Mickey Mouse and Mario. I mean, you're gonna have to come up with something new, because obviously it's just like, we're going to do card games because it's way cheaper. I mean, we get it. It's just cheaper. But after a while, I mean, okay, it's kind of all the same mechanics. It's all kind of the same games. It's just different IPs. Sure, there are going to be some differences and stuff, but I don't know. I did collectible cards when I was younger, and they're called baseball cards. Now they sit in the corner of my closet, and I don't do anything with them. I don't look at them. I don't care about them really anymore. I don't know.
I think the Pokemon, from what I could tell, at least with my daughter who's into it right now, it's more about getting the card for the character and not necessarily, like, she doesn't even know how to play Pokemon. Mm-hmm. She doesn't like the card game. She doesn't even care to know. It's more about, did I get this rare Pokemon? Did I get the one I wanted? And it just becomes more about collecting a Pokemon card versus learning how to play the game and caring about that and growing your collection, right?
What grade is she in?
She is in 5th grade.
See, Allie brought up a great point with her daughter, 1st grade, right, Allie?
Yeah.
1st grade, and my son is middle school, 6th grade, and he cannot stop buying them. He cannot stop trading them. So Gary, they've got a system going here. That FOMO, that inclusive kids, humans want to be a part of something. And especially right now after being locked away. And when you got a community of people rounding themselves around those yellow cards, right? They are going to want to be a part of it, even if they don't know how to play it. They just want to be in those conversations, in those circle of friends. Pokemon will be fine. Like, Pokemon will survive. and I think it will thrive through all this. I just don't believe that the Lorcanas of the world are going to thrive and survive. I've just seen too many other good games not survive Magic the Gathering.
And I get all that. I guess it's just as for me, and I get all, hey, if you like all that Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon and Magic, awesome, that's your thing. But here, I think most of us here and most watching all these channels are into the actual board games. I got meeples, I got cards, I got dice, there's a board. And if that part of the industry is now going to be dependent on Magic and Pikachu, well, we're in some trouble here the next couple of years, maybe even sooner than later, because I mean, inflation ain't going down anytime soon, especially with everything that's going on. You know, that's the silent tax. They're not going to be doing things on the economic side. Everything's going to be way more expensive, more shipping, making, manufacturing, the actual board game itself. And I think maybe it's one of the reasons why we're seeing these companies say, you know, we're just going to start doing more card games. And I'm just not interested in that.
If they can,
true.
Not
and
all
have an
companies,
IP that will sell.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, you're right. And it makes you wonder, like,
did anybody see anything in there with regards to Embracer Group, like what they mean by what TCG they're going to go after? Like what
there's
IP,
if you read through it, it does go into it. I can pull it back up, but they definitely talk about. Let me pull it up.
Because Ravensburger's got Lorcana, right? Was that Ravensburger?
Yeah.
And that makes sense. That's Disney.
So here, like they're saying, during the quarter, new releases included new iterations of major franchises such as Star Wars Clone Wars, the pandemic version, as well as original and owned IP board games such as two-player version of Splendor, Challenges from Z-Man, Twilight Inscription, 3000 Scoundrels, that's just Gary's favorite, as well as Heat. And so Heat, right? That was a huge...
I'm still waiting to find a copy of that. Jeez.
Oh, that game is so good.
And here's the other thing, folks. Lorcana's not even out yet. It's not coming out till the fall. And so it's not a proven, it's Disney, but you know, I don't know if anybody's been noticing, Disney is losing money hand over fist right now. If they don't get their act together, they're going to be in trouble because they already are. They're all in trouble. All these big companies are in trouble. They're feeling this economic burn. So we'll see what happens with Lorcana, but it's not even out. It's not going to be out for months. So Ravensburger, if they're in trouble now, they need to, you know, they really have to bank heavily on this one.
Have any of you played a review copy of that or heard anybody that played it, even if it's good or not?
Lorcana. Disney Lorcana. Lorcana.
No, I have no idea.
It's supposed to be like the Hearts?
Kingdom Hearts.
Kingdom Hearts?
Right. Yep. I think it's supposed to be based off of that system.
That's probably what they're looking to leverage, is that IP, right? The Disney IP, get people caught up. Now they made a phone game where it's like a battle system with Disney characters. So I'm assuming it's kind of maybe like a card version of that. Who knows? But this kind of brings us to where part of our discussion with regards to this collectible card game, and that we felt that people love collecting card games, right? Because you've got collecting cards, because it's like, all right, I got to get them all. I love just going out and buying new cards and new booster packs, this and that. But what we feel a lot of what our hobby did was replace those booster packs with actual board games now. So it's
and expansions.
I need to go buy this game. I need to get the expansion. I'm going to go buy another. So you started collecting board games almost like expansion packs or booster packs for cards, because you can say, okay, I bought 50 booster packs this year. Like, oh, you're nuts. Well, you bought 50 board games this year, which isn't a big stretch for a lot of folks who have big collections, right? Like, that's not even like, I bought 50 games. Well, I bought 20 games at Gen Con. I bought another 10 at PAX. I went to my game store, bought a few. 50 games is not an unheard of number, but they roll $50 to $100 a pop. Mm-hmm. You're looking at $2,500 to $5,000.
And
minimally,
and they take up space.
So you
look at the demographic of people that can buy that kind of game, like that volume of games. The volume of games needed to sustain what we've been seeing in 2020, 2021 into 2022.
Yep.
You're looking at somebody who's got the space to continue to do that, and also the pockets, right?
Yeah.
And it just seems like not a sustainable model. So we're not really surprised, that my kind of theory on it was like, you had a lot of people come in around the pandemic and start to play games, and probably like populated their collection with a bunch of titles, maybe as many as they could fit, or as many as they think they're going to play. Now everybody's back to work. Nobody's really playing the games anymore.
Yep.
So what looked like an indication of the hobby kind of, really on an increase, potentially that's not what it was indicative of, but that's what the publishers have been trying to accommodate, is people wanting to go back and collect and collect and collect and buy more, instead of just, buying a few, playing them a whole bunch of times and calling it a day.
Yeah. And how do you, and why do you think the advertisement model is now more influence and hype guy based, right? Versus the, hey, let's present a title to you and see if you want to buy this. No, they don't want you to think about buying this. They just want you to buy it. They want you to think you need this. And if you don't get it now, here's a promo that you can only get with this Kickstarter. If you want this promo, if you want the Fedigator promo card and you want all of the
everybody needs that
minis, you've got to buy this from the Kickstarter, because we're not going to reprint this.
Right.
What better way to get people to commit to your product, even though normally they probably wouldn't feel the need to go buy that right now?
Yeah, there needs to be a new model or something.
It's unsustainable.
Right.
It is. You're right. It's unsustainable. I think you're already starting to see the signs of that. Is it just me, or is like you hear everybody culling their games right now? I mean, it's like the great culling, and it's like the secondhand market and this trading market is kind of where to go. That's kind of where I've been lately. I don't really buy many. I've been trading or just selling, because if there's a game you really, really want that's not out there, the likelihood it's now going to get reprinted later on in this economic world, it probably ain't. So if anybody has St. Petersburg and wants to trade with me, they get that. First or second edition, doesn't matter. But I see that's kind of where everything is going.
Yeah, I think the numbers are kind of pointing that way. At least the data is, and we'll see how it goes this quarter and
something
the following quarter. Yeah,
and my hope is this. My hope is that with companies leaning into more of the actual collectibles, so going back to collectible trading card games, other kind of like collectible card games, they will have less resources for their board game space. And hopefully what that means is a higher demand for the really good games getting through. So a filter almost for the really good games to get in and get produced, because those are the ones that we're going to spend the money on, as opposed to throwing a bunch of cash all over a bunch of subpar games and hoping that everybody buys them.
I think,
you know what I mean? That's what I'm hoping.
5,000 new titles coming out a year, 5 to 10,000 new board game titles coming out a year is absurd.
It's insanity.
It's absurd. Like, because how many of those do you actually hear about? Right? Maybe 200 of them? Maybe. And how many of them are actually really good? Probably less than a dozen.
Objectively, like really good, maybe 20.
Yeah. I'd say at most.
Most are like, that game is awesome. You know?
Yeah. There's maybe a dozen of those. That game is awesome. Where the whole community collectively agrees that game is awesome.
Right.
That number is really small.
And I would go one step further and say that like relative to the games that came out that year, it's really awesome. But a probably even smaller number is actually really awesome, which kind of lends into our next topic.
Yeah, compared to the games that came out in 2015.
2015.
Which is an incredibly strong year for games.
Yeah, what a great segue.
Yes.
So with that, we're going to shift we're going to cover our 2015 games.
Yes.
One by one.
All right.
All right, let's talk about games from 2015. So we each went and grabbed a game from 2015 that we found to be quite a good one. Yeah. Which is a lot of good games in 2015. So we're just going to give you a little peek at some of the treasures from years ago. So we're talking 8 years ago.
Wow, it's
like a lifetime.
So much has changed since then.
Yeah. Who wants to start us off? Who's got a game ready they want to talk about?
I'll go.
All at once.
All right, there you go.
All right. Let's see.
Let me make you big, Gary.
Made yourself big. There you go.
There you go.
Automania. Now, I think this is like the second edition that came out. There's another version where it's yellow, but it's the same game if you ever see it. But Automania is tile placing, worker placement, a little bit of action selection. And it's just one of these games that's just really, really smooth. It's a great game when, you know, you've got people you've been playing some games with, and you're like, okay, I think they're kind of ready to take the next little jump. And Automania is just one of those great games, especially if you, I mean, I've played it a bunch of times. If you're a gamer, it's still just got a lot of fun decisions in it. And basically all you're doing is, and I pulled out one of the player boards here. And so you have like everybody has a factory. Okay. And you're going to make economy cars and then just like a regular car that most people have. And then you have like your, you know,
just a regular car.
Just a regular car.
It's a Gary car.
Yeah.
So wait, is it like Kanban?
I know, sort of the Kanban.
Like, it
like-
sounds like you're describing Kanban.
Some people have said it's like Kanban light. Now,
Okay.
I mean, Kanban's really heavy, right? But I haven't played Kanban. I've watched people
I
play
thought
it.
Bot Factory was Kanban light.
Okay. Yeah. And then you got your luxury cars, right? And
so anyway.
anyways, back to my game. So basically what you're going to have, you have 6 meeples, and in the middle of the main board, you're going to have, there's like a grid of, I think it's 16. And you got all these tiles. Some are manager tiles. Some are like kind of enhancements that you can make for your car, like better brakes or better speed and stuff like that. And then there's also just some for like money and all that kind of stuff. What you're going to do is you're just going to put your meeple either on the side or on the top, kind of like if you've ever played Santa Maria, kind of something like that, where you put in your dice, you know, in what area you're going to get a polyomino deal. And you're going to take any tile that's in that row or column, wherever you placed it at. You can also place it in other spots too, if you don't want to get anything in that area. And you're going to put them on your board. Okay. And then you're going to make a car. So if you make like this, just the economy car, you just go down and whatever's in these slots right here, you know, you'll get them. And that adds to the prestige of your car, because some of these tiles will have a star on it. And so then however many like stars or how good your car is, you're going to take that car and you're going to put it either in the North American market or the Europe market. And everybody's going to keep doing this until everybody's meeples are gone. Everybody's made their cars. And then you're going to go into a selling phase, and you will sell, depending on where you are in the turn order, will let you determine how many cars you can sell. So if you went last, you can sell as many cars as you want. If you went first, you only get to sell 2 cars, right? And so you're going to take your best car that you have. If you're in the North American market, you're more going to get more money in that area and some victory points. Whereas if you put them over in Europe, you get more victory points and a little bit of money, because they like all that kind of stuff. So that's basically what you're doing. You play 4 rounds. In the second round, you finish out kind of the tiles that are still there, or you put out new ones. And then there's you wipe it for round 3 and 4, all new tiles, which are like even more powerful. And as you're just placing your cars on the North American and Europe track, so you can get higher chances of points and victory points. And, you know, it's got one of these really neat mechanics that I've always really liked, that, you know, like, so if you ever played Stone Age or somebody's worker placement, like if somebody's already there, if you want to go there, you have to put 2 there, right?
Yes, right.
Or whatever. In Automania, it's like 2 meeples to go there to the same slot, or if the next person had to put 3 meeples, right? Well, what's really neat in Automania is if you went there first, and then Anthony came in, he's like, oh, there's something in that row I also want, and he puts his 2 meeples down, I get my meeple back, and I can play it again. Nice. And it's like, oh, that's so cool. So there's a lot of like, oh, are they going to go there? I really need to get this from a factory. You can get managers that like give you more money when you make cars or more prestige. So
that's pretty cool.
It is. And there's contract cards. It sounds like there's a lot going on, but really it plays so smooth. I really, really love this game. I love the way it looks. It's very approachable for a lot of people, and really kind of takes them to that night, that next little level. And but yeah, I mean, like we said, 2015 had some amazing games, and
Who's the
Automania.
designer publisher?
The designers were Ostby and Mindy. I don't know. I don't know what else they've made. And
That's the same as Magnificent and Revive and Santa Maria.
Oh, those the same guys?
Oh,
It's one of them, not both.
One of them. Okay.
well, that
Yeah,
explains
so-
why Gary likes
That's
it
why
so
Gary
much.
loves it. Yeah.
I know. Yeah, that must have
Yep.
been one. I wonder if that's one of their first games. And Aporta put it out originally.
Ah,
So,
yeah.
but it's
They put a
hard
lot
to
of these
find.
things.
It's really hard to find a copy. So, like what I was saying earlier,
Mhm.
getting out at secondhand market, try to trade for one. This game, I'll never leave my collection. It's just so much fun. Easily one of my most favorite games of that year is of all the many amazing ones that came out that year. So yeah,
Wow.
Automania,
No, cool.
Cool.
get it.
Cool.
Great.
Yeah. All right, Allie, what do you have for us?
Always makes me want to play more games.
All right.
Yeah.
So I picked The Bloody Inn, which is
Nice.
from Pearl Games. And this was a tight decision between this one and The Gallerist. So I went with this one. I love the theme of the game, and I love the multi-use cards. So I don't know if any of you guys played this one?
No.
No.
I have not. I know a lot of people like it though.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. So you are playing as innkeepers, and what you're doing is you'll
So
have this,
dark.
it's super dark.
I played this at Escape WinterCon. It's so
Yeah.
dark.
Is it
So
really?
you have this like inn board, which is your
That's why I'm a
income
little
cap.
shocked that Allie picked this one. I didn't take her for
Oh,
this
it's so
macabre.
good. It's so good. And so what you'll do is you'll add guests that'll come into each of these rooms, and the more players you have, the more rooms that get filled in. And what you'll do is you'll welcome these guests into the rooms every round. And some of them are worth a lot.
He looks
like this
nice.
one is actually not worth. He's a 0, so you could take him for free.
It's not very
There's
nice.
law enforcement. So
Oh.
and there's monks that are going to help you bury. So there's different types of cards that will help you do different things. And you have an option. So you can leave the people in the inn and you can earn $1 from them if they're in your room, because everybody has one room that's theirs and has their colored key. Or you can recruit them to work for you as an accomplice, or you can kill them. If you kill them, you have to bury them at some
Oh,
point.
okay.
The other
Don't wanna
thing
leave
you
a
can do
mess.
is you
Yeah.
can
Fantastic.
yeah. So if you have an accomplice in your hand, the other thing you can do is actually use them to build these annex buildings. And so the annex buildings are how you're going to be able to bury and hide the bodies. And each annex building has a number on it. So I could bury 2 bodies under this one.
No. Okay.
And so you'll see on the back, once you've killed it, they become, coffin, and it'll show you on the bottom how much money you earn once you bury them. But you don't get the money until you bury these people.
Oh.
So if they're just sitting there dead and there's any law enforcement in the inn and you haven't buried them by the end, then you have to pay to have them buried properly, and then you don't get the money. So it's this game of trying to time out when you need to kill people and bury them under your annex buildings. But the way it works is you have a hand of cards, and depending on the strength of the card and the action, you have to spend 2 accomplices from your hand if the strength of the card you're trying to action is 2. So if you want to bribe them and get them into your hand and they're a 2 value, you have to have 2 cards in your hand already that you would discard to get them as an accomplice.
Oh, I
And
like
so
that.
each of them, if, for example, you have one of the purple cards that are like the monks and the priests, if you use those cards to bury a corpse, that card comes back to your hand. But if I use a different color card to bury the corpse, those get discarded into the exit stack. So you want to try to use these cards. They're all multi-use so that you keep them in your hand, but sometimes you don't want them in your hand because you have to pay your accomplices. They don't work for free. So at the end of the day, after you earn your income from the people that you let live in the inn, you have to pay each of your accomplices 1 coin. And there's also a fun mechanism where this score track, the money track, only goes up to, I think, 40. And if you earn income past that 40, it's lost. So you have to take some of your turns to launder your money and go back down on the track and turn it into checks, which you keep for the end of the game. And the winner is the person at the end of the game who has the most money combined between their checks that they've laundered and then what's left on the track. So it's a super, super dark theme, but the gameplay is just outstanding. The multi-use cards and the timing, because you only have 2 actions each round. And so it's the timing of when do you do each of these actions and knowing who's in the inn. It also has a solo mode, which works really well. It's just a beat your own score, but they give you kind of a range of what they think is good. And in the solo mode, if you have any unburied bodies when there's law enforcement in the inn, you lose immediately. So you can't, there is no, I'll pay 10 francs and bury him properly. You lose immediately. And you go through this stack twice, and then that's the end of the game. But it's super dark. I love the theme, but I'm a big fan of like Criminal Minds and shows like that. So I kind of enjoy that sort of macabre murder Dexter feel anyway. But yeah, it's That's super awesome. It's super fun. If you're okay with the theme, which some people aren't. I know people have said they'll play it, but they don't want to kill anyone or bury any bodies. And you're not going to make money doing that.
Honestly, you're not going to win.
That's not a good strategy if you want to win.
So Haba Games didn't put this game out. What you said? No.
Okay.
I just like how long.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No,
it was a Kickstarter, wasn't it?
I have to believe that a pirate theme would.
No.
I have to believe that a pirate theme would have worked so much better with this, though. All you have to do is bury the treasure. You're still like pirates. This theme is so bad that, like, even as an adult, I just can't. I can't.
Preacher.
Can't.
That's kind of like.
Can't do it.
I felt dirty afterwards. Like we played it, and there were so many times I said, "God, I want to bury this body, but I don't have enough rooms. I need to build another shed so I can bury a couple more bodies."
Like so over the top that it's like funny.
It was too far.
I like that law enforcement is more concerned with how you're burying the bodies or that you're not burying them rather than the fact that you murdered these people. They're like,
they don't.
It's fine.
Yeah, they don't care. You can just go. I mean, in the solo, they arrest you. You're done. But in the main multiplayer game, they just want you to bury it properly. So I don't know. You must have talked your way out of it and said, "Oh, I didn't kill them. They just, they died on the property. So we'll bury them properly instead of being able to steal their money." But,
so Branden will stick with the Grand Austria Hotel. Yeah, he's not killing his guests. He's keeping them healthy.
Wining and dining them. Yes,
I will. Allie, I'm going to introduce you to a game that I'm reviewing. I think that's called Deadly Dowagers.
I saw that one.
Did you see it?
Yes, that's another one where I was like, "Ooh, I'd like that."
Yeah.
Okay. I don't like the way this is going with you guys and wanting to kill everybody. Especially Deadly Dowagers, where it's wives killing their husbands. I was like, all right, here we go.
Have we had this conversation on the show before?
Women.
Yeah. It's so funny. It's like Obsession, but dark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Branden, what do you got for us? That was cool. That was an interesting game. I'm interested in that one too. Now that's why I hate these discussions because
I know. Now we got to go to the store. Well, you probably can't find any of these at the store now. So.
No, Automania is hard to find. Bloody Inn you can't find, but this one you can. Actually, in 2015, when I was looking through not just what we owned, but what I still want to buy, there are still games from 2015 that I would love to own. There's too many to name, but there were 3 main Viking games that came out in 2015. Very, very popular games. The lowest ranking, if that matters, is like 118, 120. And that's the one I'm picking. And it's Champions of Midgard. This one is from designer Ole Steinus. And actually, Ole Steinus designs video games. And he's the one that's designing or has designed Deep Rock Galactic, the board game.
Oh, really?
Which is based on the video game. Yeah. And but this is by far and away his most popular board game to date. This game, even without the expansions, in fact, I'm sure Gary will talk about Valhalla. I would like to talk about Valhalla, but it came out in 2017. So this game survived for almost 2 years without an expansion and still is ranked very, very high. And it's because the base game is really fine. The Valhalla just makes it a little bit better as far as the gaming loop part of it, but it's effectively still the same thing. And instead of unpacking the whole game, I figured I would just grab this beautiful playmat. Now, the playmat includes sections on it from the expansion. So this is Valhalla. This is the Dark Mountain section over here. But the main part of the board is basically that. And it's a top-down vertical board, and it's a worker placement game. All those little circles you see there in the middle, you're placing your little Viking meeples out there, and you're gaining Vikings. And there's different kinds of Vikings, which are represented by dice. People have said that Champions of Midgard is a combination of Euro and Amerithrash, and it couldn't be further from the I'm sorry, that couldn't be more right. That is so completely true. It marries such good Euro worker placement. First one there gets it. Mechanics with dice chucking and all of that to try to beat these monsters.
And push your luck too, right?
It's push your luck as well. You have to sail on these ships. In fact, that's where all the sea beasts are down here. And then this slot right here, this little slot, this is the money right here, because you never know. Journey cards go there. And you're face down, and you never know. So you're sailing your Vikings down here, and you park it where the monster is down here. You park it, but when you go through the journey card, you got to flip that little card over, and there could be all kinds of stuff. You might lose food in a whirlpool. You might lose Vikings to illness. It might be clear skies and nothing happens, but you never know. And that tension is just so good. And as the monsters survive your attacks or linger from round to round, more and more money gets put on those monsters. So it's just this escalating tension of getting your ship, sailing it down there, packing it with Vikings and food, because you got to have enough food to feed your Vikings. But when they die, without the expansion, when they die, they go back to the pool. So it's one of those games where you're building up during the rounds of the game, your meeples, putting your Vikings out there and gaining things, and you're gaining cards. There's destiny cards, which are like objective end game scoring cards. There's they call journey. No, I already mentioned the journey cards. There's a lore card, so there's card play in it, and it's very Euro in that sense. But the troll, every round a new troll shows up. And if no one fights the troll, the Viking clans get mad at all of you, and everybody gets what's called a blame token. And blame tokens, if you get too many, are worth negative victory points at the end of the game. However, if you are the one that fights the troll, and only one of you around the table can fight the troll each round, if you fight the troll and win, everybody else gets a blame token, and you get the rewards. So there's always that tense element where it's like, do I fight the troll now? That's one less action I get out there on the board with my meeple, because I feel like I need to fight the troll. I've already got a couple of blame tokens. You can also give blame tokens to other people. That's the only take that's really in the game. But being able to roll the dice, and if you have a bunch of the white dice, those are your shield warriors, whatever they're called, shield maidens. If you roll shields, it defends against the attacks, but there's less swords on it for your attack. If you roll the black dice, those are your axemen, and they're very bad at defense, but they have a lot of damage that they can do, but they die quick. If you have the red dice, it's the spearmen. It's kind of a balance between spears and shields a little bit. And so it is just, oh man, it's just such a good game. And then the expansions add on variable leader powers, which I love, variable leader powers. The Dark Mountain expansion just simply adds the archers, like the arrowmen, the green dice.
Great for hunting.
What's that?
Great for hunting.
Yes, they are actually. Yes, because they get like
food's a big part of the game.
Food is a huge part of the game. You need food to pretty much do anything.
Got to stock your ships with foods to be able to send them on their journey, because you're going to lose food on the way out.
It's one food per Viking. So even if you succeed in beating the monster, if you can't feed them, they die before they even get to fight, which is why those journey cards are so neat, because you never know what's going to happen. So people are trying to plan, and you're always losing food. You're always trying to stockpile food. You're always losing your Vikings. You're trying to get Vikings. And just as an aside, the way Valhalla works is because Vikings like to die in battle, like in Glory, instead of them just dying and going back to the dice pool and then you have to redo it. You still have to do that, by the way. You still have to restock your Viking dice. But what happens is whichever Viking dies, it's replaced by the same color token. So if you have a white die or a red die and a black die, and they all die, in battle, you get a white, red, and a black token, and that sits on your Valhalla board. And then there's a section on, like I showed you on the playmat, there's a section up there for Valhalla, and they have these really powerful cards. They do really cool stuff. And you pay for those cards with those tokens from your dead Vikings. So it doesn't change the game loop. You still have to go back to town. You still have to restock your Vikings. But what it can do is it enhances the gaming loop. And it's, to me, it's such a good expansion. But the game really did survive 2 years without the expansion. It also adds more stuff. It adds these pink Valkyries and the yellow, I forget what they are. They have shields and hammers, but all the dice represent different types of Vikings.
Yeah, the pink are the barbarians, which are, I love it because they're pink. So you think of them as shirtless, running around, and all they do is kill. There's no defense on that dice.
Yeah, they just bash things. They're actually a little bit better than the Axemen. So there's all these different color dice that you can use. So it has that Euro feel. And again, you can get, I think it's the Valhalla expansion that gives you these little sideboards that add a little power.
A leader die.
You get this leader die, which is so neat. You can trigger the leader abilities and do like extra stuff, and everybody's is different. So you have those variable player powers. This game is fantastic. The other choice that I would have picked that I was fighting with.
No, you got to stop. You're already taking one of mine. You can't.
Oh,
you can't keep taking good games. I'm starting to see that you and I are on the same wavelength when it comes to our game choices.
I won't say it then.
I'm afraid that you're taking my backup.
The third one. Yeah, if you say the third one, then I'll say the second one.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's it.
You already stole my thunder with taking Champions of Midgard.
Yeah, I love Champions of Midgard.
That's such a good one.
This is one of my favorite games. I rated a 9 out of 10. It's a solid 9 out of 10. It's one of those games where if we ever did a list of games that I love to play, even though I stink at it and I lose all the time, it would be this one. I lose all the time at this game, and I don't know why. I love playing it, and I don't care if I win or lose. It's so good.
The only problem I have with that game is the table leader, man, because the board is so long.
That might have been why we didn't review that game.
We used to have it. We don't have it anymore.
Yeah.
You hated the push your luck dice part of it.
Yeah, I don't like.
Yeah, she does not like any game any Euro game that has push your luck or dice rolling in it. She's just like, nope. And I was like,
I might be with Francis.
If you approach it as the hybrid that it is, like Reavers of Midgard, the follow-up to this one, there was supposed to be a third game, and from what I understand, I don't know, maybe they axed it, no pun intended. But there was supposed to be a trilogy of games. This one was the hybrid, both Euro and Amerithrash, and then the second one, Reavers of Midgard, which we also own, is extremely good too. But it's all Euro, it's straight Euro.
Okay. Maybe you'll like that one.
Which I would probably prefer.
Which you probably would like. It's very good. It's really good. I really like that game, but they never did, as far as I'm aware, even announce the third one at this point.
That's a shame.
Yeah, it's a shame because it would have been nice to see the whole trilogy rounded out. But
yeah. All right, cool. That I did personally. I like that one. It definitely was punishing.
Yeah,
if you didn't plan well on
if
those man, you just got punished. But cool. All right, Carlos, since you've got one on the tip of your tongue right now.
All right, so I mean, right here, it's right here, right behind me, like Champions of Midgard. It's right there.
I see.
I've got the same mat. I got all the expansions. Like it was gonna be on my list. So I'll touch on that real fast because Francis, when it comes to the 2015 version of the game, I totally get it. You send your guys, they all die. Your shield maidens, those ladies, those dudes, they go on the boat and they die, and it just leaves you spent. That feeling. 2017 fixed it. The Valhalla expansion, the fact that you get the Loki strategy to play like Blood Rage, where things die, but you get tokens to go buy artifacts that really help ramp up your engine. You're like,
cool.
Okay, I don't feel it's more of a friendly player experience than that negative play experience.
It encourages you to push your luck because it's not like an end all.
It isn't where it was before. 2015, you had a couple of bad rounds of journeys that didn't go your way, or battles in the mountains that didn't go your way. It's over. Like, okay, I'm done. But 2017 fixed it with the Valhalla expansion. So great choice, Branden.
It may find its way back in our collection at some point.
I think so.
But 2015 was a great year of gaming. I mean, Pandemic season
Legacy.
1, the Legacy game that was there. But for me,
I just threw our copy out, actually.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, once you play through it,
we played through it. We played through it.
Shadow box it.
We've been doing
No.
this ranking board for the Beans and Dice group.
That's so cool. Yeah.
Almost like Top Gear. As we play
Yeah,
a game in
right,
2023,
right.
we're putting it on the board and we're ranking it 1 through 20, and
I
we'll
like
see at the
that.
end of the year what
That's
20
pretty cool.
games that we played in 2023 stayed on the board. And
that.
right now, down here in the 18th, 17th slot, 18th, Seven Wonders Duel, 2015 title.
Oh, such
That's
a
a good
good
game. That's
one.
a good game.
Yes.
That was my second choice. I
Such
didn't
a
want
good
Branden to
one.
steal that.
That's not a Viking game. That's a Greek game.
It's
It's such a
civ
good
building
game.
ish, but head to head 2-player.
Yeah.
It is a knife fight in a phone booth. Bad feelings for anyone that play because it is so tight. The decision space. Do I flip this card to allow you to have access to these cards, or do I take this card? And then with each expansion that they've added, it has made it even more, I think, mean as you play it. Seven Wonders Duel is, they took the drafting aspect out of Seven Wonders, the original title Seven Wonders, and they turned it into a card selection aspect. But you lay your cards out in a pattern where cards overlay other cards. And for the most part, you can't tell what cards are coming next. As you select cards off the board and you peel them off, it'll reveal new cards that you flip over to be able to see what they are. And some cards are already face up. You know what they are. So as you select cards, you're opening other options for your opponent and yourself to draft from. You're drafting resources in order to gain the needed resources to build more cards. There are 3 ages that you play through, and at the end of the game, whoever has the victory point marker on the farthest side is going to win the game. There's a military marker that you're pushing back and forth.
Yeah.
It's like a tug of war game. If you can get it all the way over to one side, you win the military track. If you can get all 6 progress symbols, you win the science track. Otherwise, you're just looking for, I think it's money. It is a scoring system, victory points and money based on all the cards. You want to go science, you want to go military, or you just want to go overall how you built your tableau. But it plays in about less than an hour. And the box is something that can fit in your backpack. Like, for all those reasons, it's a great title from 2015.
Such a good
I would have picked it as my number 1, except Champions of Midgard is better. Brandon's right.
Yeah, and that with the Seven Wonders Duel, that the science and the military are actually instant win conditions.
Yep, they are.
If you get the 6, I did that once. I got the 6 science symbols right under Lexi's nose, and it was an instant win. I've won the military, but it's a mean game. Allie and I played it. Yeah, it's a mean game.
You got to pull those cards. Yeah, if you can pull those cards and just keep the other player from doing military, like you could push that track hard.
Yeah.
Yep.
Especially with the resources, because you're gonna need all these resources to build the cards that you want to build. But you actually remove 3 cards from each age before you lay them out. Yep. And there might be 2 papyrus in like the first age. So if one of those is gone and the other player grabs it, you're having to pay them money out of your bank into their bank to use that resource, and that just hurts.
Yes, and it is another thing to know is it is only a 2-player game.
Yeah,
like that's it.
There's a solo mode also.
No solo mode. Yeah.
Oh, I did play the solo mode this year for the first time because I printed it out during COVID. They came out with an official solo mode that uses a card system. Man, that solo mode is good.
It's hard.
So
too.
Simple.
It's really hard.
Yeah,
simple rules wise.
Yeah, simple rules wise, and they have multiple opponents that play just slightly differently. Like they'll target different types of cards, and they'll have a different special action. But yeah, it's really good.
That's pretty cool.
That's really.
We have the first expansion.
We have the Pantheon expansion.
Yeah, if you set this up with Agora and Pantheon, it's a full-size board game on your table.
Oh yeah. We don't have Agora. Yeah, we just have the Pantheon.
It's
Pantheon
a board that goes along the bottom. Yeah, the board fits in along the bottom, where a Pantheon's around the top.
Around the top, yeah. It's like all the different gods, right?
Yeah. I would say Pantheon is probably a must-buy, where Agora is an okay to have. It added, I think, a little too much to the game for my taste, whereas Pantheon added the ability to actually pass, where before you always had to pick a card. Yep. Now with Pantheon, you have other options that allow you to not have to pick a card. So it kind of changes the cadence of the game. The tempo of the game can be changed.
Yeah.
That wasn't my second pick.
Oh, what was your second pick? I'm curious. now.
Raider. Well, it was another Viking game. It was Raiders of the North Sea.
Oh, and you're wrong.
Oh, okay.
I picked Champions because it does kind of, for me, it edges it out because Raiders of the North Sea is a very Euro. It's all Euro. Where this one, you're fighting and stuff, and I like that. So anyway,
I just couldn't
And
grok Raiders.
Branden has to put a Garfield game in all of his rankings.
That's why I didn't
Yeah,
pick it. That's part of the reason
Garfield
I didn't pick it. Yeah.
But that Raiders is rough, man. That
Raiders.
system of pulling and placing to do things, you're having to think a few steps ahead too far for me.
And think
And
what
you
the
can't
other
even
people are
really do
going
that
to
because you don't know what your opponents are going to do, which is really fun.
And the color of them matters.
Yeah.
Color matters. Yeah. I love it. It's such a good game, but Champions just edges it out for me on that.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I did like Champions. I do think that's a good one. I do regret not having it, but
Yeah.
we just did. But if we're not playing it, then it's not getting played. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So it's one of those things. All right, cool. We will finish this off then.
Yes, with
our
Allie's
pick,
number,
Allie's
almost number one.
almost
game.
number one
Yeah,
game.
that's my number 2 for sure.
Gallerist.
This game holds a special place in my heart. 2015 was a great year for gaming because it's kind of the year. Well, I think I got into gaming in 2016, but yeah, we met and started playing lots of games, and just after a lot of your 2015 games, I think were the ones that we were playing.
Yeah.
When we met, and this was one of them that you pulled out.
This was I think this might be my very first Kickstarter game.
You were so excited.
To order this one because it was I didn't even realize that you could do that with these types of games, and I thought it was like rare to get. So I'm like, all right, let me make sure I lock this thing down because I'm not sure if I can ever get something like that. And boy, was it a good investment.
Yes, it was almost as good as the investment in the art you're purchasing.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about this one?
Yeah. So Gallerist is a
Take
Lacerda.
out some
It's a heavy
pieces.
Euro. It has I always think of this one as the Neapolitan game because
It's
it has
ice
the
cream
Neapolitan
flavors.
ice cream colors. It's got the pink meeples, the brown meeple, and the white meeple. So it looks just like
Well, it's brown. Yeah, the brown, the pink, and the white.
Yeah, so it looks like Neapolitan ice cream. But you're a gallery owner, so you're a gallerist, and you're trying to attract all these different types of people into your galleries while you're recruiting new and up and coming artists because you get them on the cheap, and then you have them you commission their art. And a different type of art. It could be like sculpture art or painting art or
Like abstract art.
Abstract art, all sorts of
Blowing paint through a straw.
Photographs.
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah,
anything
exactly.
crazy. But you do this while they're a nobody. They have no prestige. And then as you get them to do the art, now you got the art on the cheap, you go on a campaign to promote them and you start to bump up their star level to make them like a master artist. And then as you promote them, your art becomes more valuable. And you only have 4 slots in your gallery, but the last slot is reserved for just a master painter. So if you can get that artist pumped up enough to start getting the best type of art, you could either, I think you can get it, you can sell it for money, or you can put it in your gallery for prestige points at the end.
Yes.
And you've got different types of goals where you're trying to have certain types of art pieces in your gallery at the end of the game, a certain mix of art pieces. But the best part is the fact that this thing has these little art
it's
displays
so gimmicky, but also very cool.
to put your art.
Totally unnecessary, but
Very
but-
unnecessary,
awesome.
but very cool.
But
Yeah.
absolutely necessary at the same time.
Yes, but it'll tell you what you need in order to make the painting, what kind
Mhm.
of painting it is, and then when you flip it, because it's we did it. Now you have the people looking at the painting because now it's in your
gallery,
gallery
yeah.
or whatever.
And it
but-
fits a certain criteria.
yes.
And on the main board, you've got 4 main actions. You can go out to the global markets, and you can do
Mhm.
marketing.
Yeah, so you can sell them on the
You
internet.
can go recruit your people. You can have them do the art. It's just such a really rewarding Euro, and it's one of my
It's a relaxing.
I think
almost,
it's one of my
calming,
favorite
but-
Lacerda games because it's just
Well,
the idea. Yeah, I mean, me personally, just because the idea behind it, the theme, the art on this one is
Seems so
really
big.
clean. Yeah, it's a giant board.
maybe
But
that
it's
won't
just
make
really
sense.
cool because you've got these different types of people in the center, kind of all milling around, and you're using these tickets, they look like movie tickets almost, like stubs, and you're paying to move these people, you coerce them to come into your gallery because some of them are investors will give you more money, some of them
Right.
are celebrities will give you prestige for being in your gallery, and it's all this time you're just trying to balance
So
all these
creative
different
board.
things while going out and getting these these different artists to come and do the art for you. It's just a really cool game.
And what I loved about this game, just mechanically, is that it does have. It might have even been maybe his first game to have that kick out mechanic.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a fact.
Well, I don't know if it's a fact, but you're right.
It has this kick out mechanic where if you're on a spot already, like if I took the international market action or something, and then Anthony wanted to go there, I get my meeple back to place right away somewhere else.
Yeah, and you have like an assistant meeple out there too.
Right.
It's like kicks
Who's,
you
like,
out, the assistant goes there.
You. It's like this whole shadow.
It's just a
mechanic.
really neat,
But it's smooth. Like it just all operates really smoothly. But again, it's one where you're paying attention on the other player's turn also, because you, as with any Lacerda, you're maximizing every single turn, but you're also maximizing everyone else's turn. Hopefully, like if you get in a position.
This is the first time I learned about the executive actions, where Lacerda's like, it's the free action, but he calls them executive actions. And these are the things like at any time you can do any one of these items, and it was the hardest thing for me to wrap my head around when first learning Euros back in the day, and it was just like, how am I going to remember to even do executive? Like, I can't even barely remember what I can do for normal actions.
Right.
I've got to sit there and I've got these free things.
This particular game, as all of his do, they have really great like user profiles. That's not what this is. User aids, player aids. That's what I'm looking for. That just tell you like what money can be used for, what influence is used for, what fame is used for. And like I said, this was the second game you and I ever played after Scrabble. So like we played, he pulled Viticulture out of the trunk of his car, like a
Who doesn't have a copy of Viticulture in the trunk of their car?
To digress, we like went, we lived in like an apartment complex, like, or whatever. I was living there, and he would come over and we'd play Scrabble in the lounge. Right. So one day he was like, enough with Scrabble. He's like, tonight I'm going to show you a real board game.
You want to see a real game?
I was like, what does that mean?
Man.
Yeah.
And he's like, I have it in the trunk of my car. I was like, okay, why not? And it was Viticulture. And so he's like, I'm interested to see how you do with this. And I was like, okay, I really don't know where this night's going to go. So, but we played it,
like
and I
he's
loved
driving
it.
around town in his white van with board games back there. Like, hey kids, I got board games.
We're just lucky it wasn't an axe.
Exactly, right? No, but it was really fun. Obviously, we had a great time, and I kicked your butt. So then he brought out Gallery, and he's like, well, let's see how you do with this one.
Let's try this one. Let's see how you handle executive action.
And then that was it. It was board games. And you, apparently. So that was it.
That's why this one's got a special place. But it is a really good game, and Allie can attest to that.
Yep.
I've never played that one. I've always wanted to. I've only played Lisboa. That's the only Lacerda I've ever played.
Really? That surprises me. Why is that? I feel like you have such you've had such access to games for a long time, and you're also.
I don't know. And you know what? It was funny because it was. I think Lisboa was that a Kickstarter or a crowdfunded game? I can't remember.
Always Kickstarter.
Yeah. And I remember that's when I was with the guys over at Man vs. Meeple, and we were learning how to play it. And it wasn't Zoom at that time, but Skype in or whatever.
Yeah.
And helped us play that because, I mean, that was such a different game, but played it a couple times. I really enjoyed it. I always wanted to play Escape Plan, but I think it's really the only other Lacerda I played.
All of them.
Yeah, I'd like to play the Gallerist.
We'll bring whatever you want.
You're gonna have to come out here for a Lacerda weekend and we'll just go through our whole collection of Lacerdas.
So good.
I think we have them all.
We do have. We have all of them.
We have all of them now.
Yeah, we have all of them. No.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
We have
four. We have to play Kanban. So, man, I didn't put this.
Yeah, I'd like to play Kanban too.
Yeah.
Yep. On Mars is my favorite.
On Mars is a really good one,
Branden. Really good,
yeah, that's the one that I haven't like cracked the nut on it yet, and I'm like, I just lose constantly at that game. The planning is just so difficult.
It's a tough game,
but
managing.
It's so reward. Like it's so good. I just
you
I
can
would play
leave
that
yourself
over and over and over.
Pretty bad if you don't bring your astronaut back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you don't take the rocket back and you don't have any spare rockets.
If you don't do the shuttle correctly, you can really get hosed.
You can lose a whole round, and then it's just like, okay, I guess I'm doing nothing this round because I don't have any guys to play.
Yeah.
And that'll crush the whole game.
Which doesn't feel great. It doesn't sound good,
Mhm.
but when you know what to expect from the game,
Mhm.
it's easier to mitigate it once you
Yeah.
understand.
Wait.
The more you play that game, the easier it is to swallow that pill and
Yeah,
plan
it's very
for it.
rewarding. Yep.
If your first
I like
play, you're like, this is terrible.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna figure this out. But it's not as bad.
Right.
But you're right. Like if your first game is probably gonna hurt because you're gonna make a mistake. You're not gonna travel properly with that rocket ship, and you're gonna get stuck.
Yeah.
Yep.
So anyway,
But that's
it.
ours.
The Gallerist 2015.
This is a nice journey back in time.
Yeah, it's very good.
I
Lot of good games.
love how we talk about these older games. And I love it and hate it because I always want to get the games. Like I'm pretty interested in that Bloody End one, and I'm definitely interested in Gary's Carmageddon.
Armageddon.
Automania.
Yeah,
Automania.
Automania. So that one can replace our what's that one called?
Kraftwagen?
Kraftwagen.
We have plenty of copies of Kraftwagen.
Yeah.
What good game were we trying to
Oh,
get
that
for you?
hurts. We went to Gen Con, just a real quick story. We went to Gen Con the year that Terraforming Mars came out, right? And it was releasing at Gen Con.
Right.
And we roll up to Stronghold and we weren't the first ones to run up in line. So we get to there and we're like, hey, we want a copy of Terraforming Mars. And they're like, oh, no, we're sold out completely. Like, you're crazy. But we have plenty of copies of Kraftwagen. And I was just like, I don't want Kraftwagen. I want
It's like not
Terraforming
even the
Mars.
same.
They had like 1,000 copies of Kraftwagen. So we ended up,
we bought
believe it
it
or not, we
anyway.
ended up getting a copy of it. And we didn't hate it,
Mhm.
but we don't love it either. So either way, maybe Automania is the way to go.
What year did Terraforming Mars come out? Was that 17?
I want to say it
2012,
was 16.
17.
16, probably
Was
like
it six-
16
I
or
thought it was
17.
16, yeah.
Yeah.
Because the big
Crazy.
Stronghold game that came out in 2015, if I remember right, was one of them was City of Spies. I don't know if any of you ever played that.
Oh, yeah. I don't think we
City of
played that.
Spies, Estoril, 1942. That's a pretty
Mhm.
neat game. Also, I just remember Stockpile came out that year too. Have you ever played
Oh, that's
Stockpile?
right.
I still
No.
have
I've
that. That's a
not,
great
but I
game.
heard that's great.
I mean,
Hard to
what
find.
a year. Voyages of Marco Polo, Mombasa, Tricarion, Grand Austria Hotel. I mean, it goes on and on. You start
What year
looking
is
at
this?
the list.
That's
Isle of Skye.
2015.
This is all 2015.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah,
Cthulhu
Tricarion was good,
Wars,
too.
Monikers, Burgle
guess-
Brothers. I guess so many.
Tricarion might have been one that would have been my
Blood
second
Rage
pick,
came out that
maybe.
year, I think.
Blood
Yeah,
Rage
I-
was that year too. Yep.
I
mean,
think
it's-
Grand
it's-
Austria Hotel would have been one for me.
Yeah.
It's arguably in the top 3 of the
Oh, yeah.
last greatest game years, the last 25 years, maybe. I
Right.
mean, it's so
And I think
good.
that's why, like, when we
Dude.
talk about the games coming out this year not being like amazing, it's because like those are the years that we
Yeah.
remember,
Right.
Yeah.
and like those are the years, like at least for me, like I came into the hobby in those years, so like I'm like, man, that was just so good.
Yeah, that's why when we
And the older games we played then were also really like even sitting down playing Stone Age was like it's just such an
a
elegant
solid
design.
game. It's a solid game.
Looks like crap. But,
yeah, it's
you know,
aged, but it's a fun game.
Yeah.
You know,
So-
that's another conversation we can have another day, but just briefly just stating, I get it why, you got some of the newer creators out there like, oh man, 2022 was just this amazing year. I've been on record, like it was it was okay. It wasn't
Yeah.
the greatest thing. I did just play Revive, which is an incredible game, but
Mhm.
I think it's because maybe some of the newers have only been in it a couple of years. Some
Yeah.
of us have been in it since like 2013, 2014, 2015.
Yep.
And like, I mean, Grand Austria Hotel for me was just like a
So
game
good.
changer
Yeah.
for me. And there's a lot of games just taking some of those mechanics and, they've just made a different game. But that's how I go back to these older games. Like, but this one's just better. It was,
it's just better.
it was first. Yeah, I know it looks like garbage, but
Yeah.
it's just so good. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what else to
I
say.
get more excited for the reprints now than some of the new games
Yeah.
coming out
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what, you've just
happen.
made. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like, if they do, yeah. But like even like Castle of Burgundy, that reprint, it looks so good.
Yeah.
Like just the components, the look of it, and it's just like it's a
Well,
solid
and it
game.
gives
And it
them
just
an
looks
opportunity to
incredible.
like if there were any weird stuff, like I think with Castles they did change a few things. I think they made a couple of rules more clear.
Yeah, like it gives them an
But it
opportunity,
gives them
to
opportunity.
fix
This
some of
thing's
these
been, like,
older
play
age
tested for, like, 10
mechanics
years.
that have, that there's probably forums forever talking about,
Right.
loopholes or bad things that they can fix and
Mhm.
address in a new version.
If I could offer just a little bit of a variant opinion, we also have the benefit of 8 years of hindsight on 2015. 2022 just ended, and I have to be honest, there's a massive list of games from 2022 that I never even got to play. I think sometimes when 2015, we've been able to play those games. I got into the hobby, started buying games from 2015 because of the Vikings plus a lot of these other ones. And I'm like, wow, yeah, it's a very good year. But I think the further you're removed from those years, maybe the more you've been able to slow down, take a look back, reminisce, because those games still are great. But I think 2022, like you said, we're in this growing bubble that's maybe in the middle of bursting right now. And I don't think that I've had a chance to even really sample a ton. Like you said, even if you buy 50 board games, we didn't buy 50 board games last year. And even if we did, how much of the subset of board games that we did buy were from that year versus previous years because of all the discussion? Those games have been vetted. They're like the Led Zeppelin of games, right? They've been vetted. They've been talked about. They've been discussed. They've been figured out. They've had the benefit of tons and tons of years of, tons of years, 7 to 8 years of being played and have that legacy. 2022 just ended. Like to judge 2022 against a previous year like that, to me is just, I don't think it has anything to do with being new or old into the community. It's just, we don't have the benefit of looking back that far yet. I think 2022 is going to turn out to be a really good game. That's my prediction. I think the further we're removed from it and we look back, I think we're going to see, because there's just some gems in 2022 that I think
it's
yeah.
I think you're right, because it's also a numbers game, right? So
yeah, exactly.
if 10,000 games come out in 22 or 5,000 games come out in 2022, you better have 20 games that are like really good, right?
Yeah.
But everybody's talking about Beer and Bread. Everybody's talking about Space Station Phoenix. Everybody's talking about Sniper Elite.
I know.
Vagrant Song. Everybody's talking about Vagrant Song and how great that game is. Those are all 22 releases.
I know,
right.
but I'm still.
Here's the thing: like, there's been a lot of hype talk lately, and I think it's
true.
Because we're also in the age of social media, right? And then there's a lot. There's 100,000 content creators now and influencers who are like, "This is the greatest game ever." Space Station Phoenix, we played it, we like it. It's not that great. Like, it honestly, it was okay.
Starship Captain's
hyped on that. It's okay, right? Beer and Bread, really good. Earth, really good.
Really good. Yeah, I love that.
Like, so there's been, like, we've probably played at least 50 games last year, right?
Oh, easily.
And definitely bought probably closer to 100 games. Like, not bought, but acquired probably about 100 games.
And I think that, because like you have to remember, like, the scope of, I don't know, the scope of, this is a whole nother discussion we can have, but the scope of what we're doing is like, it's a lot, guys. But I think when I think of like those picks that I have from like 2015, I think we've only probably played those a handful of times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, we haven't had, it's not like we've been playing them for 8 years and they're just so good, but it's like we played them a couple of times when we first bought them and they were amazing. And then we never played them again. And now we long for them because we've played a couple of games, like we've played new games for reviews or whatever a couple of times, to do a review. And it's like, okay, I don't want to play this. I want to go play that one from back then. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so it's like our touch time with it is the same regardless of when it came out.
It's just,
does that make sense?
Yeah, and like, to Brendan's point, like, I don't know if it's just a bias of, at that time maybe it was more exciting playing the games because we weren't 8 years into reviewing games, right? So maybe those first batch of games is like, wow, this is really cool. Like a lot of the new content creators coming into the space who are like, wow, they're hyped off everything because we were then, like they are now, right? So where we are now, it's like, all right, I'm playing another game, and I'm just going to constantly compare these games to the games we've loved, like comparing it to the Gallerist, right? Like, okay, but when I crack into a new Lacerda, I'm like, ooh, and I feel like, wow, this is chunky, crunchy, and it's so good. But then I
just think you're harder to please. I mean, the longer
big time.
You're harder to please in any hobby. I mean, take any hobby. You're harder to please because you've refined your taste. You've experienced so much that it's hard to find something new. So I do think that there's some kind of that, that kind of, I just try to take each year as it is,
Yeah, for sure.
It's hard to compare one year to another because it's just, I don't know.
It's tough.
Just a different time and place. Yeah.
Well, that's why I think the discussion that we're having tonight is important because it does speak to where is the industry going, what's important to publishers, what's important to people that are buying the games, and how is that driving the industry?
Right.
What direction is it going? are yours more popular? Is the American stuff more popular? Or
Mhm.
card games going to become more popular? 'Cause
Are
people
we
just
going to
want
be in
quick stuff,
a trading card industry?
It's
soon?
more like how do people want to play and what's motivating them to go get games and what
Yeah.
kind of games are they buying and how often are they going to play those games,
Right,
and I
'cause,
think
I mean,
that has
2015
changed. Yeah.
as strong of a year as 2015 was, Pandemic Legacy Season 1, right? And here comes Allie with, Bloody End. It's something that we
Yeah.
can agree that I've played and really enjoyed. Branden and I are on the same page, Gallers, and then there's Gary left field with Automobile.
Yeah. It's always got one off the wall.
Diving in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and I think
I've heard a lot of good things about Automania though. So yeah.
And, I think also just real quick up briefly is just to say, I think now that I've been playing for a lot longer, this has been one hobby that I've been involved in through my lifetime. That's like, wow, but I mean, my tastes have changed.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Like they've really kind of, matured in my own world. Like, what do I like? Now, what am I looking for? Because I've played so many of the games. Some of the newer games, I just see a lot of resemblances. I see the blueprint from a game that I just adored 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. So I start to get, okay, whereas I used to really maybe like that back then, I don't really care for it now in terms of like, is it going to be easy to teach? Can I get to the table? Like the theme or whatever. So this is just one hobby. Your flavor is just going to change pretty well.
That hurts. Like I built an identity with my buddy Rob as the Ameritrash guy. Well, I mean, you look at this list on the board of my top games.
I'm not seeing any trash, Carlos.
No, you're not.
A bunch of beans.
Right, I'm counting beans and I'm loving it. So like I grew up in this hobby, chucking dice, being the Ameritrash dungeon crawler guy, and now it's like I'm not that guy anymore. And like Allie, at one
matured.
point,
Right?
will you not be like solo and family anymore? She's gonna be doing like 40K.
Kingdom Death
Monster.
Monster.
She's doing all the macabre
No,
games.
she's going to be a trading card player. I'm telling you. That's what she is. CCG.
Running a Pokemon racket.
Yeah, that's it.
Really the direction.
Kill the
you're going.
Pokemons.
Yeah, stay in the hobby long enough. Gary's right. Your taste will change, and you won't even recognize the guy that used to love playing Risk.
Yeah.
Mhm. Right.
Crazy.
Well, look, this was an awesome discussion, I think, tonight. I really like these kind of loose topic and then just sharing a game with each other. But I think we've definitely gone long, so we'll probably take it to a close.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Yeah, appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all for joining us. Had a great time. If you want to follow any of these fine folks, you'll see their links to their channels all down below. Go join them. Go subscribe. Support the team.
And if you
Make
think
sure
we're
you call-
wrong,
yeah.
call in Thursday nights, Beans and
Yes.
Dice podcast. Call in and tell me why I'm wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah, comment on this
Absolutely.
video.
yeah.
Like
we'd love
it.
to see.
Subscribe.
Love to see what your favorite games are for 2015.
Yeah,
We'll see.
definitely.
All right, cool.
If
Thank
you
you
get
all.
tired of picking on Carlos calling in, you can then hop over to our live stream and pick on me. So Thursday night, you got your choice of who to pick
Yeah.
on. You're good.
I know. I have a whole lineup because it's like Branden at 6 and then Carlos at 9.
Yeah, so Thursday nights is the live stream night. So
Like
good stuff.
TGIF all over again.
Yeah, it is. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, TGIF. What happened to that? I gotta bring it back.
All right, folks.
All right.
Take care. See you
We'll see
soon.
ya.
See ya.